if you started to dread October. Not because of the cold itself, but because of what that cold does to your hands, your knees, your hips by December. I want you to stay with me for the next few minutes. Because right now, before the ground hardens, there is a small window, a planting window. And if you use it, you will have something most people don't have by next spring. A mature medicinal root growing in your own backyard, ready to harvest, ready to prepare, ready to do exactly what 1,000 years of healers knew it could do for aching joints. The plant is chicory. You've driven past it on every rural road in America. You may have pulled it out of your garden thinking it was a weed, and it has been quietly waiting the whole time to be recognized for what it actually is. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to plant chicory this fall and harvest a fully medicinal root next October. Stay with me. The one detail that determines whether your root is medicinal or useless comes at the end. Chicory. Cicorium intybus in Latin. The name traces back to the ancient Egyptian word chikuri, meaning simply, it opens. A plant named for the act of opening. If you've never looked closely at a chicory flower, find one before the season ends. The blooms are small, about the size of a quarter, with petals so precisely arranged they look drawn with a compass. The blue is extraordinary, not the pale blue of forget-me-nots, not the purple blue of lavender, a true, clear sky blue that seems too deliberate to be accidental. Below ground, the plant is building something else entirely. A long, cream-colored taproot, dense, firm, faintly bitter when you snap it, that spends its entire first year accumulating the compounds we're here for. You'll never see this root, but it's there, deepening every week until the first hard frost. God designed a plant whose medicine hides underground, patient and unhurried, ready exactly when you need it. That has always seemed intentional to me. Before any laboratory isolated a single compound from this plant, people on every continent were using it for the same thing. Egyptian physicians documented chicory in the Ebers Papyrus, one of the oldest medical texts ever found, written around 1,500 years before Christ, as a plant for purifying the blood and strengthening the liver. Purifying the blood was their way of describing what we now call reducing systemic inflammation. They didn't have our vocabulary. They had observation passed down across generations. In the Benedictine monasteries of 12th century Europe, monks cultivated chicory in their physic gardens, those carefully tended medicinal plots kept just outside the infirmary door. Brother herbalists recorded that the root, prepared as a slow decoction and taken daily through the winter months, eased what they called heat in the joints. The same swelling, the same stiffness, the same morning pain that millions of Americans know today, they called it by a different name. The remedy was the same. When Union naval blockades cut off coffee supplies to the Confederate South during the Civil War, soldiers in Louisiana turned to roasted chicory root as a substitute. They were improvising out of necessity. Without knowing it, they were taking a daily anti-inflammatory. New Orleans never stopped. That tradition persists in the city's coffee culture to this day. What a 12th century monk prepared for aching joints is the same root you're going to plant this weekend. Here's what those monks and soldiers didn't have words for, but what the science now confirms. Chicory root contains a compound called lactocolpicrin, the primary active constituent in its bitter white sap. Lactocolpicrin is a natural COX-2 inhibitor. COX-2 is the enzyme that triggers the inflammatory cascade responsible for joint pain in both osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. Ibuprofen works by blocking that same enzyme. The difference is that lactocolpicrin does it without the gastric lining damage and cardiovascular risks associated with long-term NSAID use. The root also contains inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria. Researchers at the Cleveland Clinic have documented a direct connection between gut microbiome health and systemic inflammation. An inflamed gut sends inflammatory signals straight to your joints. Feeding the gut with inulin is one reason people who drink chicory tea regularly report whole body improvements, not just joint relief. 2,000 years of traditional use. Modern science finally naming the mechanism. The same plant at the end of the same rural road. I don't think that's coincidence. Here is the detail that most people miss, and it changes everything. The chicory root you want for medicine is a second-year root. In year 1, the plant builds a root underground, loading it with inulin and lactocopacrine for winter storage. By October of year 2, that root can reach 12 inches long, cream-colored, dense, and full of the compounds you're growing it for. This means the time to plant is now in fall, so that next October you have a mature medicinal root ready to harvest. For the South and Southeast, Georgia, Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Florida, plant between late September and mid-November while the soil is still workable. Chicory germinates in cool soil between 45 and 65 degrees Fahrenheit. The seed needs the cold soil contact to break dormancy correctly. Soil, sandy, well-drained and slightly lean, a pH between 6 and 8. Rich, heavily amended soil produces a leafy plant with a thin, medicinal poor root. Resist the urge to fertilize. If your soil is heavy clay, mix in coarse sand before planting. That single step makes more difference than anything else you can do. Planting. Press seeds 1/4 inch deep, spaced 8 to 10 inches apart. Water once. Then leave them almost entirely alone. The most common mistake, planting in partial shade. Chicory needs full sun, at least 6 hours, to build a root worth harvesting. A forgotten sunny corner near a fence or wall is ideal. When October of next year arrives and your plant has dried completely above the ground, here is how you harvest and prepare what you grew. Dig the entire taproot without breaking it. Wash it, slice it thin, and dry the slices on a screen, a paper towel, in a warm, well-ventilated spot for 1 to 2 weeks, until the pieces snap cleanly when bent. Store in a sealed glass jar away from light and moisture. Dried this way, chicory root holds its medicinal properties for up to 2 years. To prepare what the old New Orleans apothecaries called the daily root decoction. Place 2 tablespoons of dried, roughly chopped root, not powdered, into a small saucepan with 2 cups of cold water. Bring to a low simmer over gentle heat. Not a rolling boil. A gentle simmer with small bubbles rising slowly from the bottom. Cook uncovered for 20 minutes. Remove from heat, cover, and rest for 10 minutes more. Strain through a fine mesh strainer into a mug. Drink 1 cup in the morning before breakfast. A second half cup in the evening if desired. A small amount of raw honey softens the bitterness without reducing effectiveness. No dairy. Milk proteins bind the active polyphenols and reduce absorption. The effects are cumulative. Give it 3 weeks of daily use before you decide what it's doing for you. Patience is part of the preparation. Everything I share here is meant to complement your health care, not replace it. If you're managing arthritis with medication, talk to your doctor before adding a concentrated herbal preparation to your routine.